Prison mess hall buzzed with the clang of metal trays and murmured conversations when a sudden slap shattered the noise. Officer Grayson's hand struck Darnell's face, sending the tray of food crashing to the floor. Silence swept through the room like a wave. Eyes turned. Grayson sneered, barking, "Clean it up, inmate, or you'll eat off the floor." Darnell, his cheek reddening from the blow, looked up. He didn't speak. He bent down, collected the food in silence, and stood tall again. Inmates exchanged uneasy glances. Grayson smirked and walked away, his boots echoing like a judge's gavel. A moment of quiet tension hung in the air. In that instant, every inmate knew. This wasn't discipline. This was hate. And Darnell, though silent, had just become the center of something much larger than a spilled tray. Within the hour, Darnell was escorted to solitary confinement without a word. The corridor was dim, the silence oppressive. Inside the small gray cell, he sat on the cold floor. A younger guard paused before closing the heavy door and whispered, "He's trying to break you." Then the click of the lock. Hours passed. Later, Grayson strolled by, arms crossed, peering through the slot with smug satisfaction. "You're not like the others, huh?" he taunted. "Think you're smart? Let's see how smart you are in the dark." Darnell didn't move. He just stared back. The power play was clear. This wasn't about rules, it was personal. Grayson needed to dominate, but Darnell, even confined, wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Each moment inside that box was a test of will. And while Grayson walked away feeling in control, he had unknowingly lit a fuse in the stillness. Released from solitary, Darnell returned to kitchen duty. The moment he stepped into the prep area, eyes followed him, not with pity, but respect. An inmate subtly nodded. Another slid him a clean apron. There was no applause, but there was recognition. Grayson loomed nearby, his presence thick with tension. Later in the laundry room, the real confrontation happened. Grayson grabbed Darnell by the collar, slamming him into the wall. "You think those cameras save you? I run this place," he growled. But this time, Darnell didn't stay quiet. He looked him dead in the eye and said, "Then you should know who's watching you." Grayson froze, just a flicker, but enough. Darnell walked away, leaving the officer rattled. It wasn't a threat, it was a statement. And in that single moment of defiance, the tides began to shift. Grayson doubled down. Over the next few days, Darnell's mail disappeared. Visitation requests were mysteriously denied. He waited hours for meals that never came. But Darnell kept calm, taking notes. Every denied service, every mistreatment, he wrote it all down. Whispers rippled through the cell blocks. "He's documenting everything," inmates said. Even guards noticed. A senior nurse took quiet interest. One evening, she approached Darnell under the guise of a routine check. She leaned in and whispered, "You're not alone." That simple sentence changed everything. A quiet alliance was forming, the kind that didn't need fists, only eyes and words. Darnell moved with purpose now, every step calculated. Grayson, sensing his grip slipping, became more erratic. But each action was being watched, and while the prison walls hadn't changed, the balance of power was beginning to tilt. It was no longer a game of survival, it was a countdown. Grayson launched his final play. Early one morning, he called for an impromptu inspection of Darnell's cell. He led a team of guards with a cocky strut, ordering them to stand back as he rummaged through Darnell's belongings. Moments later, he found a stash of pills and a shiv under the mattress. Holding them high, he roared, "Contraband! Caught red-handed!" The hallway filled with commotion. Inmates craned their necks. Grayson shoved Darnell against the wall, screaming into his radio, "Inmate resisting! Back up now!" As guards flooded in, Darnell knelt quietly, hands behind his head, a calm smile on his lips. Grayson raised his baton, his voice cracking with authority. But something had changed. In the crowd, a few guards hesitated. And then, just as the baton was about to fall, a voice erupted from the intercom above. "Officer Grayson, step away from inmate Darnell. Warden's orders." The room froze. Inmates blinked. Grayson stumbled back as two guards moved forward, holding up a tablet. A clear video played. Grayson entering Darnell's cell earlier alone, planting the contraband. Another clip, the slap in the cafeteria. Another, the tampered mail drop. Grayson's mouth opened, but no sound came. The younger guard who had once warned Darnell stepped forward, now firm, cuffs in hand. "Hands behind your back, sir." In 5 seconds, the power shifted. Grayson, who minutes ago towered over Darnell with unchecked power, now stood small, exposed, trembling as the cuffs clicked. Inmates murmured, some smiling. Justice, rare and raw, had arrived not with a riot, but with evidence. Darnell looked on, steady, his eyes locking with Grayson's one last time. It wasn't revenge, it was balance restored. And for the first time, Grayson understood the weight of every second. Darnell was led past the cells not as a suspect, but with the respect of guards and inmates alike. In the warden's office, he was met not with suspicion, but with apology. "We're sorry for what you endured," the warden said, sliding a sealed envelope across the desk. It was a letter from his mother, weeks old. Darnell opened it, hands steady. The handwriting was familiar. "Stay strong, baby. You're not forgotten." He closed his eyes, emotions swelling but controlled. The warden added, "Your records are clear. An investigation is ongoing." Outside, the sun cast long shadows across the yard. Darnell walked out, not free, but vindicated. And that kind of justice, inside those walls, meant everything. He had endured without breaking, not by fighting back with fists, but with something stronger: patience, truth, and quiet resolve. The battle was over, but Darnell's dignity had remained untouched. In the yard, Darnell sat beneath a tree, finally able to breathe. Inmates walked by with nods of respect. The younger guard, now on routine patrol, met his eyes and offered a subtle nod. No words were needed. Darnell opened a small notebook, flipping to a page filled with tiny, neat handwriting. At the top, it read, "When they push you, build your case." He smiled to himself. This wasn't the end of his sentence, but it was the start of something else. A story retold in quiet moments, in changed rules, in new eyes that now watched with awareness. Sometimes justice doesn't come loud. Sometimes it waits. 5 seconds is all it takes to flip the story. Smash that like button if you believe dignity can't be taken, only surrendered. Subscribe for more true stories that expose the unseen side of justice. Comment below, if the roles were reversed, would justice have been just as quick? Let's talk about it.